make sure that it has at least the word witches in there. And, something like, I was spitballing. I said something like Return of the Witches, and he goes, boom, that's it. Okay, see you later, Jason. So I didn't ever get to say you're welcome.
G'day guys, it's Toby Rand from The Fell. You are listening to All Over the Place, where the fun sanity never ends.
Hello and welcome back to All Over the Place. I'm your host, Eric Portvoznik, and bringing in right away my co-host and friend, Jim Culver. How are you, Jim?
I am awesome. How are you?
Life is grand, my man. Life is grand. Fresh back from Mass this morning, and I watched an amazing documentary. Earlier this year, we did a tribute, part of our Ozzy Osbourne and Michael Madsen had passed away earlier this year. And Amazon Prime has a great documentary out right now. I finished watching it overnight. It's American Badass on Amazon Prime, a Michael Madsen retrospective. Check it out. I know you're a fan, so definitely want to see that.
Awesome. Will do.
And I just always want to thank our fans out there. We are growing so much in the last couple of weeks, couple of months. This year's been fabulous, fantastic. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. And don't forget, we now have our stickers. We've got our pins. We've got our keychains. So make sure you are commenting. We're going to be sending those out to random commenters, and we want to get those out to you. Thank you so much for supporting and sharing, subscribing all over the place. We really appreciate it. And also want to remind everyone, if you're looking for concerts to go to, and who doesn't want to see live music? If you don't, why are you watching this show? Anyway, live music, very important. And be sure to check out dzplive.com/events as Danny Zalesko presents for your concerts across the country. But very specifically here in the Southwest, Danny is the man. Coast to coast, he's the man. Check it out, dzplive.com/events. Also, if you're in Arizona, specifically the Phoenix area, be sure to go to our friends over at Vinyl Record Dude. They got their grand opening has recently taken place. They are firmly ensconced there in Scottsdale and Shea. Go there, check them out. And if you can't check them out in the store, vinylrecorddude.com, and they will ship you whatever you need. That's how my relationship began with Nick and the guys over there. I got some NXS from them, and here we are now 4 years later. Be sure you check out vinylrecorddude.com. Also, check out drumtalktvbrilliance.com. Dan Schinder and the gang over there get you hooked up with all their concerts, all their extra footage, interviews. Great stuff. Be sure you check out drumtalktvbrilliance.com. And Kathy Rankin, not with us today, but be sure you check out everything that's going on with Kathy. She's got a big event coming up that she's co-hosting with Eddie Trunk that's coming up in January at the Heavy Metal Hall of Fame Awards. Going to be happening at the world famous Rainbow Bar and Grill on the Sunset Strip. Then skipping over to the Roxy for the show and inductions. And we're going to be covering that. Very excited. All over the place. Is going to be on the red carpet doing interviews for that. So, but be sure you check out Kathy and everything going on with her at Instagram.com/RushFanatic. And without further ado, we've got a great guest and from the heavy metal world and rising from the ashes of the band Seven Witches is now coming Night Terror, and they've got their brand new EP out, Return of the Witches. Please welcome to the show lead singer Jason McMaster. Jason, thanks for joining us.
Glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Well, I mentioned it is the resurrection, and of course, Seven Witches band, or late '90s, early 2000s, and now with Jack Frost on guitar, it's his brainchild, and he's brought you into the fold. And what is it like now to be helming the it's Night Terror now, right? Coming out of Seven Witches. Tell us about that and getting that call from Jack. And being the lead singer, the frontman for the band.
Well, I was well aware of Seven Witches. A friend of mine from down here in Texas, longtime friend, James Rivera, was the singer on the first Seven Witches release. And then, ironically, the second Seven Witches record featured my buddy Alan Tecchia, who replaced me in my band Watchtower when I jumped over to Dangerous Toys. So I felt like I was already in the family. I wasn't waiting for Jack to call. I didn't expect it, kind of a thing. But, I've been running into Jack off and on for decades now, and always friendly, always great. And never had any suspicions that we would ever collaborate together. But here we are. He contacted me a couple of years ago to talk about another installment of his baby Seven Witches, and I was happy to do it, and because I was already a fan, and he started sending me songs, and I started working on it, and all the vocals were recorded right here, just a few feet away from where I sit. This is kind of my think tank and my studio. This is where I do everything. I also have a podcast, and I do that from right here as well. Anyway, yeah, I mean, already kind of knowing Jack a little bit, and he's got a lot of energy, and he's much like me. He's got his irons in a lot of fires, and yeah, that's kind of how it came together. And I feel like since he already had my buddies singing in Seven Witches, this is good. It's an honor to be kind of here where my friends have been before, and it's interesting how it kind of came. He was going to call it, in my head, he was going to keep calling it Seven Witches because he has footprint, with Seven Witches.
Right.
So it was a little bit of a shock. One of the songs that I wrote for this record was called Terrors in the Night. So after a few weeks that I had sent in the vocals for that and was approving mixes and everything, Jack calls, he says, I'm changing the name of the project to Night Terror. And I was like, oh, okay, well, surely that, in my head, surely that had something to do with the last song I sent in, Terrors in the Night. And I said, well, what about all of the work and the momentum you've got from Seven Witches over the years? And I was going to tie in the title. I was like, well, what are you going to call it? And he said something, I don't recall what he said, and I go, well, make sure that it has at least the word witches in there. And something like I was spitballing. I said something like Return of the Witches, and he goes, boom, that's it. Okay, see you later, Jason. So I didn't ever get to say you're welcome, but
he was excited. He had to make sure he got it down.
Jack is.
It was implied, I'm sure.
Yeah, sure. Jack is. He's a funny dude. Jack is always excited. If you've ever met Jack Frost, you know what I mean. He's always excited. He's always smiling. He's one of the, he's a bouncing soul. So that's kind of how it all came together. So
very excitable young man. Very excitable young man.
Yeah.
And you mentioned the collaborative process. And so, when he's bringing you into this project that, he's had, he said the footprint of Seven Witches, and, and you're writing songs. And so what is the collaboration process like, where he comes in with some riffs, you come in with a lyrical idea, then he gets the riffs? How's that collaboration work with you guys?
It's very common for myself and many artists to collaborate with people they've never met. Just because of being on the road and, bumping into Jack a few times, and I've gone to see him play for years. And we've done, his band will be on a festival, that I'm playing on, and we'll bump into each other backstage or at the hotels or whatever. And so that's kind of, where it's been and how we know each other. It's very common. I've made lots of records and written lots of songs with people that I've never met. Carl, the drummer, Dennis, the bass player, I've yet to meet. The process is basic. They write, whether it's in a room together or the same thing, where Jack's got a metronome. He puts a guitar track on. He sends it to Carl, the drummer, and he puts the drums on it. They send it to the bass player, and I'm the last one. I get it. There's a rough mix. I listen to it a few times. I see what I have laying around, or I become immediately inspired. And hopefully that's the case. Then I'm not using leftover ideas, right? And I write the lyrics. It can take me a while to come up with something, but usually the first thing that comes is melodies. So I'll sing like some dummy words, or skit scat over the song in places, and go, oh, okay, well, here's my verse and here's my chorus and la la la. So that's usually the process. Sometimes I have the lyrics before the melody and before I've even heard a song, and I was like, this looks like it's going to fit. This feels like it's going to fit something that Jack's going to send me, and I'll set it aside, or I'll have it on my desktop or whatever. So that's pretty much how it is. And there was only one song that I had to sort of like rearrange the composition. Like sometimes one part needs to be longer, I'm in the middle of telling my story, and they take a left turn and go to a bridge, and I'm like, no, we haven't even gotten to the chorus yet, or what they thought might have been a pre-chorus feels like a bridge to me, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And that is it's not often that I have to do that, or request to make a change, or open it up and as a session and do some cutting and pasting, and cut this part out, move it down, and make the verse longer, or the chorus goes twice instead of once, etc. But the song Dying Days was the only song that I had to do that on this time. So overall, it was really comfortable, and I usually write and sing what the song is asking me to do. I do what the song is asking me to do. And Jack totally trusts me. He knows I'm a metalhead. He knows my pedigree. So he knew that I was going to know what to do, or he wouldn't have enlisted me. So yeah, it's fun. It's a fun process. And, collaborating via email is very, very common, was kind of where I started with this. So that's kind of how it all came together. Yeah.
You mentioned you haven't even met the rhythm section yet. So how much are you champing at the bit right now to get all four of you? And of course, you've got Eric Ragno, the occasional guest on the keyboards on this, but just getting in the room with the guys and just banging it out. How much are you salivating at the thought of that?
Well, there's no plans to tour or play live at this point. Everybody is so busy. Carl, the drummer, lives in France. I'm pretty sure he lives in France. And so it's not like, hey, let's meet down at the jam room. It does no. I'm in a lot of projects that have never played live. They have a record deal and we make records, but I've never met them, and there's never been plans for a tour or playing live. Now, that's a bummer, but calendar permitting is usually the issue. So more so than geography. So.
And of course, you mentioned earlier about having your the hand in so many other different projects. So while you wait to work with Night Terror, just getting that live itch, right? Are you able to do that with any of the other projects?
Well, I was in New England last week with Dangerous Toys. I've got some shows here locally. The Dangerous Toys are doing the Monsters of Rock cruise like we always do. I mean, I've done about 15 of those cruises. We're doing another festival later in the summer. I did 5 shows with Watchtower in September, just throughout Texas. Texas is big. You can go on tour in Texas for 2 weeks.
Oh yeah.
We were celebrating our 40th year anniversary of the debut record, Energetic Disassembly, and that's going good. Now Watchtower's kind of in recording mode. We're trying to put together our swan song. We're all much older now, and that kind of music. Watchtower is this crazy technical prog metal stuff, and hard to be prolific with that. Anyway, so I'm busy all the time working on something. Night Terror is just the newest record this year, but I'm always collaborating. I've got a band called Hot Shot that's kind of the same idea. It's a collaborative effort. There's not really any plans to play live, and we're writing. We've got a record coming out, hopefully by the end of next year, by that band Hot Shot. So we're writing and recording and working on stuff all the time, and yeah, I'm in a lot of different things. So yeah, it's never boring. And my podcast keeps me busy too. So yeah, and my life is crazy.
I wouldn't want it any other way. Our co-host
Yeah.
Mark is always making fun of me and calling me the Dominican with all the different projects I've got going on. So yeah, I get it. Jim, what's the quote from Heather's? Chaos is what killed the dinosaurs, right?
Exactly. Yeah, and your ability to multitask is very impressive for somebody who can only focus on one thing at a time. If I'm lucky, but I do have to ask, since you play cruises, have you ever had to perform in any heavy waves while the boat's rocking back and forth?
Yeah, a little bit. You know, you'd be surprised even when a ship is in, you know, a storm. It's still pretty, you know, it's not like being in a John boat, you know,
Right.
it's still pretty, but when you're on stage and you're, you know, getting your boogie on and you misstep, you can keep going, you know, you kind of end up going one way a few more steps than you planned, and your routine gets off a little bit. Or when you see the hung the PA line, you know, when you see that swaying, you know, a little bit, you're like,
Yep.
whoa, we're in the amidst of, you know, ships ahoy, and that can be a little weird looking too when the PA is, you know, one minute it's hanging straight and the next minute it's doing this. You're like, wow, okay, yeah, it's pretty weird.
That's got to be throw you off your game a little bit. I went on a cruise in the North Sea for my honeymoon, and we hit some of the worst waves I've ever been on a boat. And we went to see a stand-up comedian show, and the comedian was stumbling back and forth on the stage the entire time and working it into his act. He was pretty good about that. But yeah, I couldn't imagine. Yeah, having played a few gigs, I couldn't imagine trying to keep my focus through that. So kudos on that.
Yeah,
you're the drummer, Jim. So yeah, you got to worry about where your equipment's going to be.
Absolutely, and keeping the rhythm.
Let's strap that stuff down.
That's it.
And making for some interesting mosh pits.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
And all the free drinks that you get while you're on the cruise too. Just it all comes together to a wonderful head. And the remedy is in the poison. Loving that song, love it. The video that you guys did, and the slow build is that the prototypical, you know, prog metal kind of thing. Slow build, and then it just unleashes the brutality. So tell us about the making of that song, and then what it was like making the video.
Yeah, my first, I've revealed this week in a couple of other interviews that when I first heard the track that didn't have any, you know, I think that the songs were titled 7W1, 7W2, etc., standing for Seven Witches, Song 1, 2, etc., etc. When I'm listening to the song that ended up becoming Remedy is in the Poison, it felt like, it sounded like my head immediately went to Iron Maiden Remember Tomorrow, because it has the same almost exact feel, except it's played with a fretless bass, and it's all, you know, these solos, these little phrases that Jack is playing until it opens up, and I'm like, here's where I can vocalize a little bit here on this intro part. But it's definitely reminiscent, if not pretty close to the spot that would be reserved for Remember Tomorrow off the first Iron Maiden album. And then you're right, it fades, and then Jack kicks in with the guitar and it speeds up, and all hell breaks loose, which is how I like it. Now, that song lyrically came to me, like, I don't recall having any preconceived lyrical idea just laying around in the stacks of yellow pads and bar napkins that have phrases written on them that I've gotten from, movies, TV, and books, which is part of my process as well. But a lot of them did. A lot of them was like, man, I need something. What do I have laying around? And this will work. And I try it, and it's like a painter. Oh, let's try red. When does a painter decide to use red? Because the tree doesn't have to be brown, the bark doesn't have to be brown, and the leaves don't have to be green, right? So if you're a good artist, right? So the idea kind of just came about that the things that might be good for us start out as something that might be bad for us. If we need to make a fire, you're going to have to break eggs. You know what I mean? That the analogy is mixed with mini, right? And so that's kind of where that idea came from. And it might get a little involved with what's happening in the world a little bit there, but the metaphors are deep. So yeah, the video, I have to tell the story. Originally, it was going to be this animated sort of short film, like a rock video, but it's animated. Like someone was actually drawing us with a program or an app, and just to move forward, I didn't like it, and I was saying, is this how it's gonna look? And Jack put me in touch with the artist, and I was like, is this? He goes, well, the next tier of app to use to make it do what I feel like you're expecting it to do is going to cost a lot of money. And I was like, I threw up my hands, and I got back with the label, and I said, look, the effort I appreciate 1,000,000%, but you're drawing me without my shirt. I'm a 60-year-old man now. I don't have the balls to take off my shirt anymore. Let's keep it real. Let's try to be whatever, we can be, and or try to maybe mix media. So what I did is I took the animated video and I sort of cut in some live. It's not really live, but it's me sitting in front of this camera, and I actually took my shirt off and put a vest on so I could, kind of feel a little bit more human and real and comfortable. And I sort of mixed in with my own video editing with the and it was starting to work. And then they just decided, that I was right, that the animation part just looked kind of clunky, right? And I said, well, look, let me continue. If you guys send me footage of you guys just rocking out in the garage, just throw some lights on and go through the song a few times and send it to me. And so the video you guys are talking about, I made in this room right here. And
technology is wonderful.
It probably looks like that to someone who knows better, and that's okay. I like grainy and gritty. Let's get $10,000 video equipment and make this pristine, and then let's put a bunch of filters on it to make it look old. Well, why don't we start at the end? Why don't we make it look old and grainy right now with a crappy camera and just standing around the garage, distorting the camera and shaking the camera around, because I think that stuff looks great. especially
Cut out the
for
middleman.
for a rock band. Yeah, it needs to be raw, and I feel like that's kind of my opinion, maybe. But sure, it is nice to have budget. It is nice to have good equipment and real production on a video. But um, you know, when you don't have a lot of money and you're on an independent label, it's like I like DIY. It's not that I'm too much of a control freak. It's more so that I feel like, well, if the band can make their own video, they should. Van Halen made their own video in Jump. Uh, Daryl in
500
Pantera.
bucks.
Yeah, Daryl from Pantera made quite a few Pantera videos with just him and his buddies in a room, and I just think that that's kind of more real, and fans need to understand that the grime and grit in a video is usually done. Those are filters put on this really expensive camera that someone is paying off a bank loan to pay for. So no thanks, man. That's just true grit, literally.
That's metal as far as I'm concerned. And I said DIY, absolutely. And
DIY is metal. Yeah.
and you guys are in 4 different parts of the globe, and it still looks like it's a great performance clip, and it's
Yeah.
getting the job done.
Yeah. And it's groovy and weird enough with the archaic effects that I had that were already came with the application that I'm using. So where it swan dives back into the groove, or that intro where it's real dreamy and everything, I was able to get creative enough to sort of follow what the song was asking me to do in the video, just as much as the song is kind of, has the peak and valley, that you guys know, you've heard the song. So yeah, it was fun and I like doing it. So yeah.
And folks, make sure you check out that video over. It's on YouTube. Also, you want to go over to Deco Entertainment, is where you can find out information about Night Terror. And you can also, while you're there, get yourself an autographed bundle. You get the LP, you get the CD, and you get a flat of the guys. And I believe there's also, what else? There's a pin. There's stuff you can get over there at Deco Entertainment. Be sure you check that out. And you can also get the EP. It's on vinyl and CD. Go to your favorite brick and mortar store, have them ordered for you, or just it's on your preferred streaming platform as well, or you're online. I know it's at Amazon, so I'm going to guess it's at Barnes and Noble. Just check it out. But that's Night Terror, and the name of the EP is Return of the Witches. Make sure you're checking that out. And Jason, you brought up earlier, the Iron Maiden influence, and or just just how it wove in like that. And we're big fans of the Maiden here, and a band who is still cranking out great albums. But but for you as a front man, as a lyricist, what and who were some of your influences?
I grew up on Elton John and Queen and Alice Cooper and David Bowie, and then I discovered KISS, and then all hell, it all went to hell from there. And that was my gateway into a lot of stuff. UFO, Thin Lizzy, early Ted Nugent, Angel. And, I saw a lot of these bands growing up in South Texas. And then my younger brother, believe it or not, turned me on to Judas Priest and AC/DC. And after that, I just wanted it to be faster and heavier and louder. So, I think I heard Prowler by Iron Maiden on my local radio station down there. And this probably would have been in like 1979 when it was just a single. I think they were sending out 45s to all the radio stations. They probably just, my first Maiden is on Harvest Records. I still have that. It's signed by Derek Riggs and Paul Diano. Those are the only signatures I have on it. And I cherish it. But as a singer and a lyricist, probably Bernie Taupin, who writes lyrics for Elton, and then probably Alice Cooper. I think his lyrics have always been, and ironically, he worked with Bernie Taupin as well, and recorded some stuff with Elton's band. And then, but I think that as far as like, like KISS and AC/DC and those kind of lyrics where, Aerosmith and stuff like that, where it's a lot of heavy innuendo and suggestive lyrics without, being so literal, and being creative with titles and colors and things like that, really shined when I got into Dangerous Toys. I was new as a lyricist at that point, because in Watchtower, my guys wrote all the lyrics and just gave them to me to write the melodies and such. When I joined the Toys, I felt like I had arrived and had a chance to really be the songwriter, and be part of, the main nucleus of songwriting going on. And there's always two or three of us writing together in Dangerous Toys. Even if there would be songs that I would write the music and the lyrics, and then, or Scott would bring in a riff and I would write the lyrics, and then Mike, the bass player, would bring in lyrics, and we'd kind of write. So always collaborating together and getting ideas from within the group. Really, I prefer that. But sometimes the song writes itself, and sometimes the melody or the hook that you have, or even the lyric, is going to tell you what the music is supposed to sound like. So I'm just writing the music as well and presenting it as a demo to the band. So, but when I joined the Toys, the lyrics were, it's all, I wrote a song called Sportin' a Woody. So there you go. People had to figure out that as well. And, they got in trouble when they wore the t-shirt to school, which is, I figure I was doing the, rock and roll a correct service by scaring parents worldwide. So, yeah.
And sometimes a single entendre gets it done better than something, a little less obvious would do.
Yeah. And I find that just being literal is very boring. Can be very, very boring. Yeah. Just like Steven Tyler says, pink is my favorite color. So,
what could he possibly mean?
Yeah, I don't know what he's talking about.
Tacos.
And right. That's exactly what he's talking about. Red donuts. I like the donuts with the pink icing on them. I really do. So the idea that, Sportin' a Woody reminded me of, some of the ZZ Top stuff, like Pearl Necklace and Slip Inside My Sleeping Bag, and these great, really funny, lighthearted things just about getting excited. And back to Steven Tyler with 10-inch record. These are important songs to make young people, when they first hear them, go, I really like this song. And the parents go, I wonder if they know, I wonder if little Jack and little Jill know exactly what Mr. Tyler's talking about. So
I think back to my friend Stephen McGuire in elementary school, and we were not allowed to play Chuck Berry's My Ding-a-Ling, which was on one of his K-Tel collections. So that was a no-no. Yeah.
Great song, great rock and roll, testing the boundaries, Tutti Frutti used to be called, the lyrics used to be Tutti Frutti Good Booty. So the label was like, yeah, I don't know, Richard. I think you're going to have to change something here. But it still worked out. I think the point got across no matter what. So I feel like, playing with the ideas, it doesn't matter if you are literal, like Iron Maiden, Number of the Beast, or you're telling this huge, opus of a story. It's almost like the drama in like an opera, right? And I feel like Night Terror has some of that, and it's brooding and it's dark, and I love that just as much as I like, the sexual innuendo when you're, when it's AC/DC, when it's boogie metal or just hard rock with fun, lyrics that can be funny. I think that getting the listener to think about what it is they're listening to, because sometimes the lyrics just don't even matter, and someone just likes the song for whatever reason, not knowing what the hell the singer is talking about. I mean, you know, at 9 and 10 years old, did I really know what my favorite artists were singing about? Hell no. Did I care? No. Did I want someone to tell me? I didn't care if someone was telling me what the songs were about or the preferences of who wrote this, the views and political and sexual references of the artist didn't matter to me. They still don't matter to me. If the song is grooving and talking to me in its own way, that's up to the listener, and they should enjoy the emotional value that they're getting out of the song. So, and Night Terror is no different.
Well, I would touch it with a 10-foot pole and do some tube snake boogie. Absolutely.
See, you get it.
Are we Devo? No, we are men, and we like to be a little sexually silly from time to time.
Yeah. Yeah, those are all great songs, great bands, very innovative, and are important to the landscape. I think you just put together your own playlist right there.
We've been known to make those from time to time, and you never go wrong with it. Texas, ZZ Top, the little old band, can never go wrong with ZZ Top.
No, you cannot.
And you may, of course, earlier we're all getting up there, and just we don't want like taking our shirts off as much as we used to, all that stuff. But when you're out there playing, the next generation coming in, how many of the because I see a lot of people my age bringing their kids, or sometimes like their grandkids or whatever, to the shows. How much are you seeing that being passed down to the next generation of metal maniacs?
I see it all the time. I see it all the time. The Toys were in New England recently, and there was quite a few little kids. I went and saw Death to All just a few days ago, and that was incredible. Gorguts was supporting, and it's death metal. It's and I'm seeing little kids there, and I hope they're wearing earplugs.
No.
Yeah,
I saw Judas Priest in '86. My ears were, I was like maybe 10 feet or so from KK's stack. And my ears were ringing for over a month. It's how you break these kids in.
Well, yeah, I get I understand the romance you speak of, but I also feel like, the kids were on their phone anyway, you know what I mean? But yeah, I see that. But then I see them in the front row, it's not really about me, but for example, my shows in New England, people with their kids in the front row, and the kids are like holding up your album and like, singing the lyrics, and they're like, they look like they're 11 years old, and you're like, wow, or the parents bring them into the meet and greet, and they're wearing shirts they just bought at the merch table and holding up records asking you to sign them, and I see that all the time now, and I think that that's just good parenting.
I say that all the time. It's the parents, and I will I'm an umpire, and all the different walk-up music, and when they play a classic one, I will find the parent and say, thank you for doing the right thing with that kid, for shepherding them the correct way.
Yeah, I've worked for a company called the School of Rock for 20 years, so I see a lot of young angry teenagers who are they start to get into something, and that's their thing, and it could be pop music, it could be country, it could be some new death metal band that I've not heard about yet, or whatever. The thing is there's always, when they walk in wearing a shirt of a band that I grew up listening to, it could be anyone. I'm like, yes, and they hear that response, and let's hope that hive-minded people, whenever that kid walks into the restaurant or into school, or that there's fuddy-dud like me going, yes, yeah, complimenting their shirt, because that's going to inspire them as well, and confirm the emotional responses that they have to that artist that they're flying a flag for. And not being ridiculed. Like, I wore a KISS t-shirt to school every day, and for a little while, and then I was ridiculed for it. I was made fun of for it, and I stood my ground all the time. But I feel like the more people made fun of me, there was always 5 more going, my parents won't let me wear a KISS t-shirt to school. And that empowered me, and it made me go, wow, I love my parents more today than I did yesterday. Just from this kid telling me that, to give me the freedom to express myself and be an artist, as much as the guys in KISS did. They didn't let any walls keep them boxed in. They did whatever they wanted, and they were sort of like spreading that message to everyone. You can, if I can do this, you can do this too. Be yourself all the time. Believe what you want to believe, and dream all the time. And I think that that's what music is for. I think that that's what art is for. So, yeah, it's important stuff. I forgot the question.
Hey, this is all over the place. We wander, we find our way back. And I was lucky enough, like you getting that early Maiden before the debut album came out. And for me, my dad like listened to hard rock, and he listened to a lot of stuff. But WMMS in Cleveland, they were playing AC/DC before they had the U.S. releases. So they were playing the imports from Australia. So my dad gave me AC/DC at age 5 or 6. And then I gifted him, like, I turned around, I gave him Metallica in the late 80s, early 90s. So
it's important. And I also want to underline that, if you are into what your parents are into, that's okay. But if you were rebelling against their the dad rock or whatever, well, if Slayer is dad rock, then that's fine too. They might be into. It's just funny to say Slayer is dad rock, because I've been in situations where Slayer is the dad's. Dad's dropping Jack and Jill off at the school, and he's wearing Slayer shirt or Motorhead shirt or whatever. It doesn't matter. My point is, usually the kid 50-50 will rebel against that and be into something totally different, or the apple doesn't fall, it's still connected to the tree. You know what I mean? It's usually the same. And what's great is when the kids in my situation at School of Rock will like show up wearing, they don't wear anything but concert t-shirts, and I can tell, like, they're wearing an Emperor shirt, and I'm like, oh, you went to the show? Yeah, they were badass, and I'm like, wow, this 12-year-old kid loves black metal, and their dad takes them to the show. And so it's like this, wow, my mom, because I was too young to get into a bar to see Twisted Sister in 1984, because in Texas, the drinking age kept changing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when I was 18, they changed it to 19, and I was like, well, my ID is bogus. So I talked to my mom into getting me and all my friends in to see Twisted Sister in a little nightclub called Cardi's in 84, and You Can't Stop Rock and Roll had just come out. And so this was before the storm, right? They were in a club, and there was about 15 people in there. But the point is my mom doesn't have to like it, but the world needs to know how cool my mom was to get me and like my younger brother and 3 of my friends in and say, these are all my sons. I'm coming in with them. I'm going to sit in the back and read a book. You guys go buck wild. So that'll be in my book.
So Texas sounds like a little bit like Wisconsin, and you could drink in there as long as your parents were at the table with you, so to speak, or close,
Wow.
somewhere close. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that. I didn't really care about having a beer. I
Hey,
was
you're there for the music, but yeah, but
oh, I was yeah.
being inside. Yeah.
Yeah. That sounds right. That sounds like Wisconsin anyway.
Just parents. It starts with that, and then I brought it up before. I'll bring it up again. Methodist father, Catholic mother. I had the best of both worlds, and mom was cool too. She listened to a lot of cool stuff, and although she did try and put the musicals on me, but I fought through the Barbara Streisand and the Hair soundtrack. But it's
Well, a lot of that I see how that stuff could also be important, especially as a songwriter. When you hear a composition and you even dabble with songwriting, I feel like those, you know, Barbara Streisand and Barry Manilow and whatever, show tunes and songs that would be considered like even 60s pop music, like you're watching Johnny Carson and somebody comes out and does this really melodramatic, piano driven song. Now, being that, if it's not Kiss, it sucks kind of a mentality that I had as a youth. It was important to me to realize as years have gone by, and I love to write songs. It's how I express myself entirely. I hear something from way back then that's that kind of a thing, and you really have to respect how well the song is crafted and why it's doing and moving and doing, why it has the moving parts that it does, and it's that emotional value that it's the goal of the songwriter was to do what it's doing. And music, either if you're in the grocery store and a song comes on, if you everybody has a language. Now language is a metaphor. Everyone has a language that would be universal, and it's most of the time it's music. And so if you're in the grocery store and a song comes on, sometimes I don't even hear it. But then when the next song comes on and you're like, oh my God, I haven't heard this song in 25, years. I haven't heard this in forever. You know all the words. You start singing along. It's like it's a photo it's a photo that you found in the attic, and it takes you right there. And the pie on the windowsill, you smell it. The big wheel you got for Christmas in the photo, you go, oh my God, and you immediately go there. And that's what a song is. That's only what innocently is only what a song is trying to do. Back to the language. The song is either speaking your language or it's not. So the rest of the stuff that's not your language should be easy to ignore. And then sometimes you're surprised that a song will come on and go, wow, this Britney Spears song actually has this really cool part in it that I like. You never know. You just never know. And as someone who just uses sounds to create emotion, you understand.
yeah. Oh, it's I think too. Jason Isbell on one of his albums, I can't remember which one it was, but he's going in the thank yous. He thanks Barry Gibb, and then in parentheses he said, "Yes, that Barry Gibb."
Yeah,
Barry Gibb, phenomenal songwriter.
Yeah,
for
one of the
people, not just the Bee Gees.
greatest, one of the greatest of all time. Yeah,
it's great melody. Well, it's fun. Last night I was annoying or surprising a lot of people. Michael Penn's "No Myth" came on, and I'm just in my car, just Heathcliff, it's no myth, blah blah blah, and it's a song I haven't heard in probably 25, 30 years. Still know every word.
Yeah. Well, then that's what I'm talking about. And in the song could be, the song Black Sabbath by Black Sabbath. And if that's a song that you haven't heard, let's say
I would love to hear that in a grocery store. I would get a mosh pit going in the line.
I've been surprised before. I've heard some pretty cool things in the grocery store. And sometimes it'll be like a friend of mine's song. I'll go, oh, all right. And I'll text them. I'll go, dude, they're playing your song in the grocery store,
Here's some
And that's
residuals coming your way. Thanks.
Yeah.
You clearly shop in cooler places than I do.
Well, it's usually to be clear, 9 out of 10 times it's something like Shout It Out Loud or Rock and Roll All Night by KISS that I'll hear and go, wow, all right, and rocking out in the grocery store, but it's usually a very popular artist when they play something that's hard rock, right next to something that's super popular. When they play a classic rock song in there, you're always like, wow, they're digging deep, if it's Humble Pie or something like that, you're kind of like, wow, whoever programmed this music is cool in my book,
And yes, Jim, I actually have heard the Replacements' Alex Chilton in a grocery store.
Wow.
And thereby fulfilling our show's requirement that I mentioned the Replacements or Weird Al or In Excess at least once a show.
Perfect. You met the quota. Good. Let's round of applause. Do you have a button?
Thank you. It was organic too. So, but I want to get to the cover that you guys chose for the Return of the Witches EP. So, all of your different backgrounds and all these great metal bands. How did you guys come up with UFOs, Lights Out?
Well, I'm a huge fan, and obviously Jack is as well. The importance of UFOs is people just don't. If you don't understand UFO, that's too bad. But to me, they're a very important band. I feel like they're also this sort of part of, but never included in the genre that would be known as the new wave of British heavy metal.
Mm-hmm.
And I also feel like Thin Lizzy is part of that. And, like saying Judas Priest is part, well, they kind of started the genre, so it's arguable, when you go back, and you can even say Led Zeppelin, it's like, these are Deep Purple, these are proto metal bands, in a roundabout way. Well, UFO is in the mix there somewhere, and they never got their due as songwriters. They were always the opening band in the arena, in the 70s. And much like Cheap Trick, something like that. Amazing songwriters again, here we go, right? So,
and another one still making great albums.
Yeah, exactly. So, Jack said, and we did a cover of Lights Out by UFO. And I was like, oh, okay, great. There was no argument there, but I had no say. It was already recorded and included in the folder of songs I was to record and write lyrics for, of course. So it was much joy to do our version of Lights Out. And it's legit. It's not our own, jazzified version of Lights Out. It's legit. We kept it true to UFO's version.
You kept it true, but we made your own. So was that SW14 on the tracks that they sent you then?
No, there was only 6 songs. Yeah, it was only 6 songs, and it was just the rough mix I was to use to record my vocals for it. It just said Lights Out.
So a 6-song EP, and of course, touring not on the agenda, at least not in the immediate future. But can we look for any new music coming from Night Terror?
Well, the original idea I always felt was when Jack first called me was to make a full record, and so that is more, say, what I would have preferred. But I'm cool with whatever, I'm easy going. So when he told me it was going to be an EP, I was like, oh, because I think I recall emailing him back going, where's the rest of the songs? I've got 6 here. Is that it? I kept saying it over and over and over. And they go, no, it's an EP. No, we're only doing, we'll write some more and I'll send those to you. Here, it's all I got. Don't get greedy on me, Jason. So, and so it's just because in my head it was going to be, 10 songs, 12 songs. I'm cool with it, one of them being a cover, but yeah, I think that we should do 5 more songs and then actually combine, book 1 and book 2 and make it a full length if people want to buy it all on a side A, side B 12-inch.
And if not hit the road, then get you included on one of the cruises that you're doing. They do some double duty with Dangerous Toys.
Yeah, maybe. I kind of frown on that because it becomes a conflict of interest, and it's a lot. It turns into more work than I want to do.
So that'd be hell on your vocals. We don't want to do that.
Yeah. And when I'm on, I don't want stress. I want it to be, I want my work day to go easy, and I want to be able to focus on the energy for one thing. Those cruises can wear you out quick. The next one we're doing in April, they've got us playing 3 shows when normally we only do 2, and I'm cool with that. And it's okay if they're 3 days in a row, just not 2 on one day. That could hurt. So I mean,
a matinee and an evening show. No.
Yeah, no thanks. I'm not interested in doing that. But yeah.
Well, I'm glad you got the Night Terror. You got Return of the Witches, got the EP. Be sure you check that out, folks. Like I said, it's your favorite brick and mortar. Have them order that for you on vinyl or CD, or you go over to decoentertainment.com. You can order it there. Make sure you look for your bundle package there, especially with the holidays coming up. Make sure you get that.
And then everybody who gets it, take pictures of it and send it to me because I don't have that stuff. I want to hold the vinyl in my hand. I don't have that. They don't send the band copies of the records when they come out. Did you know that?
Well, we got to talk to Chip and Jen.
It's worse than that. The day the first Dangerous Toys album came out, I went to the store and bought it. I'm not kidding.
Hey, well,
it's crazy, man.
Well, like I said, it's nice to be able to call your friend and say, "Hey, you're on the grocery store." Oh, even better to walk up and say, "Yeah, my album. Here you go for me."
Well, I felt like that was a good day. Yeah.
Well, on behalf of the headbangers and the crazy metal maniacs out there, Jason, thank you so much for being involved with Night Terror. Thanks for joining us here on All Over the Place. And folks, again, check that out over at decoentertainment.com or on the streamers.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate you guys very much.
Absolute pleasure. Glad you're able to spend some time with us. On behalf of Jim and our missing in action today, Marty and Kathy, thanks for watching and or listening to All Over the Place. And always make sure you go over to DZP Live, DanielZalescoPresents.com, DZP Live/events, and also vinylrecorddude.com, Drum Talk TV Brilliance.com, and be sure you're checking out Kathy at Instagram.com/RushFanatic. Thanks again so much, everybody. We'll be back real soon on All Over the Place. Take care.
Bye-bye.
All Over the Place, where the fun sanity never ends.